Howdy Beans, and welcome back to the Howdy Beans podcast. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're all good as per usual. I am on my nostalgia train once again. To be honest, it is quite interesting that the last few episodes have all been very nostalgia driven. I am just on that sort of, on that train of nostalgia, that train of just reliving my childhood, to be honest. I'm 27 now, so I just want to look back at the things that I enjoyed when I was younger, and today is definitely one of those examples. Today, we're going to be looking at Stubbs the Zombie in Rebel Without a Pulse. Specifically, we're looking at the remastered version from 2021. But before we get into all that, we'll do a bit of housekeeping because I like to keep my house nice and clean no matter how nostalgic I get. I like to keep it nice and tidy. So make sure that you follow me on X at howdybeans_pod. If you listen to this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And finally, if you listen to this on Spotify on your mobile phone, don't forget to leave a 5-star rating. So, as I mentioned, we're going to be looking at Stubbs the Zombie today, the remastered from 2021 that was done by Aspire Studios. I am incredibly excited to talk about this game because it is a huge nostalgia game for me, to be honest. This is part of my £5 bargain or bin review series. For anybody who doesn't know, anybody who's joined the podcast this year, who didn't check out any of the episodes I did last year, this is a series where I have a look on the Xbox store. I look into charity shops and car boots and all sort of places like that for games on the cheap. The idea is, can I find a game that is £5 or under, not £5 and 50p, not £5.99, not £5.9p, all the way from £5 to free, basically. Anything under that is perfect for the criteria. It can be any game whatsoever. It can be a game I've played before. It can be a game I don't even know about. As long as it's under £5, then it qualifies. And this one was on sale, I think, last year around about Christmas time, because they had a big sort of end of the year sale. And I can't remember how much it was. I think it was selling for about £3.49 thereabouts on the Xbox store. So I had to pick it up because I've still got, I don't know if you can hear it, do a bit of a disc ASMR for you right now. I don't know if the mic picked up those noises, but I have my original copy of this game from the original Xbox when this came out, which is 2005. It was made by Wide Load and Aspire, and I'm really excited. I remember sort of what drew me in to this game from looking at the cover right now is that right in the top corner, right under Xbox, it says built with the Halo engine. And obviously me being a little bean and just loving Halo, having played Halo 2 basically all the time. Every time my dad had it on and my uncle had it on, I played Halo 2 all the time. And it was the game I played constantly. Like I never completed Halo 2. It was one of those where I just constantly replayed the first few missions and then I would just restart and start all over again, because again, when you were a kid, that's what you did. You were just happy just to be running around shooting aliens. And obviously I eventually did complete Halo 2, but as a young being, anything to do with Halo for me was a big thing. To see this game on the shelf with a big zombie, he's about to devour a young lad's brains, and it says it's built with the Halo engine, just really, really sucked me in. As for what's on the back, it says, "Be the Zombie," from the executive producer of Halo. The synopsis goes, meet Edward Stubbsfield. During the Great Depression, he was a down-on-his-luck traveling salesman. Now in 1959, and he's a zombie with an inescapable hunger for human brains. How could this happen? The answer lies buried somewhere in Punch Bowl, Pennsylvania, a high-tech city of the future built by the world's richest man. Punch Bowl is a paradise of hover cars and helper robots, where crime and pollution simply don't exist. It's the perfect city, safe, clean, and convenient. Stubbs can't wait to move in. Have the last laugh on humanity, indulge your appetite for destruction, eat brains, possess the living, build a zombie horde, convert your enemies into undead allies and lead a zombie assault upon the living, use your body as a weapon, hurl gut grenades, spit zombie spit at enemies and unleash your unholy flatulence to bring down your foes. bring civilization to its knees as Stubbs the Zombie and show the retro-futuristic city of Punch Bowl that they can't escape the past. Machine guns, bazookas, sniper rifles, lasers, use any weapon, clamp your severed hand on the gunman's head and fire away. It also says play in co-op, double the damage with a friend, and in brackets, friend not included. Then it goes Stubbs the Zombie, the soundtrack featuring all new versions of 1950s era songs as performed by the humankind's best artists. Buy it now at fine retailers everywhere. So that is the synopsis off the back of the cover. As I mentioned, I have tons of memories of playing this game. Again, this was a game that I think I completed actually. I can't really remember. But even so, it was one of them sort of games that, again, being classic sort of video games, it got difficult the longer you played it. So I remember I got to a certain point, and I used to get frustrated. And the only way that I would felt like I just wanted to play the game. I didn't care about really completing anything. It was just a game that I'd play for a bit, have my fun, and then I'd restart and do all over again. Because all I wanted to be was a zombie. I wanted to eat brains, kill people, and that was it. And this game gave you in spades. It's a zombie game with a comedy twist. You just don't get games like this anymore. You really, really don't. And also, I've got the manual in my hand and just flicking through the manual now, just talking about the story. So it's like, the story so far. In 1933, Edward Stubbsfield was just another travelling salesman trying to eke out a living. Only one thing stood between him and success, an unbroken streak of bad luck dating back to his birth. Stubbs couldn't sell ice cream in the Sahara, and he sure couldn't sell life insurance during the darkest days of the Great Depression. Speaking of depression, Stubbs' miserable life came to its logical conclusion one hot summer night when a prospective customer unloaded a shotgun into Stubbs' belly and buried him in the unmarked grave in the remote Pennsylvania countryside. Now it's 1959, and that same countryside is covered by the steel and plastic wonderland that is Punch Bowl, Pennsylvania. Punch Bowl is the brainchild of billionaire playboy industrialist Andrew Munday, whose rise from poor orphan to world's richest man has captivated the globe. Using experimental technology developed by an army of scientists and engineers, Munday has created a fully functional city of the future, complete with hovering cars and robot labor. The gates of Punch Bowl have being thrown open as Andrew Munday invites the world to see his vision of the future. At the same time, something stirs beneath Punch Bowl, an ex-travelling salesman about to embark on a new career as a brain-eating zombie. At last, Stubbs has found his calling. And I miss this. Don't we just miss a manual in a book? And it obviously goes through getting the game started, how to play the game, zombie strength, zombie sprint, use the hand, possession, gut grenade, unholy flatulence, appetite for destruction, different things you can do, all the different vehicles you can drive and weapons you can use, the different enemies you're going to meet, Andrew Munday, Maggie Munday, Dr. Wayne, Police Chief T.S. Masters. And again, it just loads of background stuff. Like a lot of this stuff is not even part of the game. You got Punch Bowl, Penn, Police Department, Chief Masters, opening day, security risks, and he just talks about men, women, children, and all that, and it gives you a bit more of the story. And I love that. You just don't get that anymore. And I've got so many memories of just killing people and just eating brains and just being a zombie, because not many games actually let you be a zombie. And when I say be a zombie, I mean literally just have fun. Like nothing serious, no sort of Left 4 Dead sort of thing. Like generally just enjoying yourself and having a laugh, really. And that's what this game is. It is a joke. It is a laugh. It is a comedy wrapped in horror, but it is wonderfully done from my memories anyway. The remaster might be terrible, but we'll see. As for talking about the game's development, there's a lot to say actually about the game's development. So where was I? Right. So oh God, I found it and I lost it. There it is. Okay. Stubbs the Zombie was Wide Low Games' first game after its founding. The company's founder, Alex Serapane, had previously co-founded and worked with Bungie and used the production as an experiment to determine how he would run an independent studio. The game's development began with a team of 12, but Serapane decided to use contractors, which raised the number to 60. This decision brought difficulties when the hiring process wasn't properly overseen, leaving the team with a shortage of producers and lack of cohesion. A game development model was developed with 12 full-time employees overseeing pre- and post-production phases, while independent contractors worked with the remaining content. Using the Halo engine provided some problem in the early stages, The engine was completely developed by Bungie, and it lacked notes from them or peer reviews that would emphasize possible programming problems. Due to this, an excessive amount of time was spent determining which contractors would require training to use the engine, as well as how long they would receive instruction. From at the onset, the game's concept intended to innovate the horror genre by letting the player play as a zombie. Sarah Payne claims that the team intended to take something that people are familiar with and turn it upside down. The game was intended to contrast with what was regarded as the general idea of zombie games, changing the straightforward good guy versus zombie format found in games like Resident Evil, and using humor as a way to tell a story. Humor became a key aspect during the development stages, with Sarah Payne claiming that the team wanted to go beyond just amusing dialogue in a cutscene. Character dialogue and game mechanics were designed so that the funny results are directly based on the player's actions, preventing them from becoming repetitive or stale. So that is the development. As for sort of the reception for the original game, the Xbox version received generally favorable reviews, while the PC version received average reviews, according to the game review agitated Metacritic. The game was perceived as painfully short and linear, but never boring. The game's environments were described as nicely varied, noting that places like Punch Bowl, the City of the Future, are extremely well designed and appropriately cool looking. The game's soundtrack received positive reviews. The character's voice acting was described as the element that set the game apart, to the point of claiming that never before have the sounds of zombies moaning been so well done in a game, and that the IGN emphasizes the futile cries from civilians and armed forces and squishy scalp munching sound effects as elements contributing to a higher quality than the game's visuals. So it was very highly accepted. It was very highly loved. On March the 16th, 2021, a remastered version of the game was published by THQ Nordic and released for PC, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, featuring modernized controls and achievements and trophies. Apparently, there was also a I Love Stubbs Collector's Edition featuring a severed head of Stubbs statue, exclusive vinyl. It was apparently available on July 2021, but I couldn't find anywhere to still buy it. I would actually happily buy that statue now. One thing I want to talk about before we move on is the company Wideload themselves. So Wideload, so this was their first ever game that they did. It was done by the help of sort of Aspire. So their first sort of project that they did, and then after that, they also made another game called Hail to the Chimp, which was released on June the 23rd, 2008. But the company was then quickly bought up in September the 8th, 2009 by the Walt Disney Company under the name Disney Interactive. Wideload would develop original video game properties for Disney. They developed Guilty Party. After Disney Interactive underwent corporate restructuring, Wideload was reassigned to make mobile games, beginning with Avengers Initiative, featuring Marvel superheroes. Then, sadly, Wideload Games was officially shut down by Disney on March the 6th, 2014. So they didn't really have a long go of it, to be honest. They had Stubbs, which was their biggest game. And then they did another one, which came out in 2008. And then that was it, really. Then they just went on to do Disney stuff, and they were gone. So it'd be interesting to see this one and done game. Obviously, it's a game I've played before, so nothing will be new to me. But I'm excited to see what the, shall we say, remaster is going to be like. Does the game still hold up with a fresh lick of paint? Is it a good remaster? Does it look better than I remember? Is there any bugs, that sort of things? And again, this just allows me to get really nostalgic and to talk about a game from my childhood, and to be able to do it as part of the podcast, as part of my sort of £5 bargain or bin. So I haven't started it yet, so I can't really talk about my experience of the remaster. Usually at this point I would, but I haven't started it. But I'm really, really excited to. I've got a lot of fun memories. Hopefully those memories hold up. Hopefully the game is as good as I remember it. And yeah, I have a feeling this, to be honest, I'm going to make a prediction right now that I have a feeling this game will be worth the £5 entry fee. if not better. Again, we will see. It depends, like I said, on the remaster, because again, Aspire's been known for doing good and bad remasters of games. So we will see if it's a good remaster or not, and I think that's what I'll be judging it on mostly. But you'll get all my proper thoughts and feelings very, very soon. I'm going to go off and play Stubbs the Zombie now, and when I come back, we're going to talk about my thoughts and feelings. So until then, I will see you in a minute. Right, so I've just finished playing Stubbs the Zombie. I hope you enjoyed my zombie noises there. I was going for a sort of zombie, but also to kind of match the sort of tone of the game, which is kind of like a tropical paradise, utopia, but zombies are attacking at the same time. That's what I tried to imbue there with that interlude. But I couldn't find the zombie noise that I was looking for. Believe it or not, it's actually really difficult to find a decent zombie noise. And I sat there for about 20 minutes, probably even longer, on Pixel Bay, just trying to find a zombie noise. And I thought to myself, what am I doing? I'm wearing the headset. I've got the microphone set up. Why don't I just do my own one? So I just did one take, and that was the first take, and I loved it. And that's why you heard that in the interlude. So I hope you liked it and you enjoyed it. So anyway, I've not long finished playing Stubbs the Zombie, Rebel Without a Pulse, and it's not a very long game, to be honest. It is very short. It is very linear. You can complete this game in under 2 hours, which, to be honest, I almost did. I completed it in about 2 hours and 23 minutes. I would have done it in under 2 hours, but I was having so much fun that I was messing about. I wasn't taking the game seriously. I guess if I had ran it, then more than likely I could have got it done in 2 hours. But I just had fun, and that is my overall sort of first impressions of this game. But before we get into it, I just want to say, as I was playing the game, after I did the introduction, my original plan was I was going to review it as I review all the other games. But to be honest, as I was playing it, I quickly realized what I should be doing is I should review this game on the remaster itself, on the remake. Remastered part of it, because that is the more important part, is the fact, because we all know from listening to the introduction that I really, really love this game and that I had a lot of fun with it when I was younger. So there's no real surprises to say that I still enjoyed it now. It's still a cracker of a game. It's a lot of fun, and you get to be a zombie, and it's brilliant. So what I thought I'd do for the first impressions is to kind of give you my first impressions on the remastered part of it, itself, really, and then go into my thoughts and feelings on the game. So the remastered part of it is fantastic. This is basically what you want from a modern remaster. You basically want the game that you remember, but to look and feel as if you remember it looking. What I mean by that is, many times when I remember when Halo 2, for example, first played that on the original Xbox, that game blew me away because there was nothing like it. That was the pinnacle at the time of graphics. That is how good video games could look on a console, and I remember being floored and blown away. And then, you play Halo 2 now and you're like, oh, yeah, it's not that good, because I've seen better, because I've experienced better now with modern gaming and all that, and movies and all that sort of thing. And then you had the Halo 2 Anniversary Edition, which basically made the game feel the way I remember it feeling and made it look the way I remember it looking. That feel of the visuals and just taking what was there and just making it a bit better. And that's what you get here. Aspire did a fantastic job. They took Stubbs the Zombie, the original sort of game, and just put a fresh lick of paint on it. Just made it look a little bit more sharper, a little bit more clearer. The textures are better. Everything it just feels better. The loading times are practically non-existent. That is also a bit of a negative, but I'll get into as to why in a minute. but it's fast, it's quick, it's sharp, and probably that's why you can complete it under 2 hours, because there's no loading times. And again, back in those days, the game probably would have took you longer, because again, loading would have been longer to get into certain areas. But it feels great, it looks great. Aspire Germany did a fantastic job with this, and they did what they needed to do. They got the game, they made it look a little bit better. They reduced the loading times because they're practically non-existent. And yes, that's it, and it works, because to be honest, this game worked perfectly as it was. They didn't need to add anything. They didn't need to add any more bells and whistles. The game already works swimmingly. It's a fantastic remaster. As for the loading part, and why I say it's a negative, is because when you play the original game, because back in the day, we can get around it nowadays. Loading screens are practically gone. They're still around in some games, they'll say, oh, crawl through this small little crevice, and as you're crawling through this vent or this small little gap, you feel like you're playing the game because the game's still going. There's something's come up, says load, and the game hasn't paused. You're still going, but really what's happening in the background is that it slowed the character down so that the game has time to load the next area or load the cutscene or whatever, so that there is loading screens, but they're done smartly and cleverly. They're hidden, right? Or you get games like the new Indiana Jones, where it's seamless, where there is no loading screens at all. Obviously, back in the early 2000s, that wasn't a thing. We didn't have sort of really good hardware to be able to load and process games very quickly. So we had to sit through loading screens. And some games did clever things with them, some games didn't. One thing that I used to love with Stubbs the Zombie was that whenever you would go from one level to the next, you would get a loading screen, and that loading screen would be sort of an artful sort of what's the word I'm looking for? An artful sort of rendition of what is happening in that scene. So, for example, when you do the tutorial, you get on a monorail, and you go from the monorail to this big sort of biodome. And while you're on the monorail, while the game's loading, there is an art card, and it's basically Stubbs the Zombie on the monorail. And I still remember this, actually. And he's turned other people into zombies, and there's just bits of other people being eaten and stuff like that. And it adds to the story, because when the loading screen ends, Stubbs runs off the monorail, and he's followed by zombies, because it makes sense. The fact that he's a zombie, he's not just going to sit on the monorail and get off. He's going to eat anybody who is on the monorail with him. And I miss those sort of art cards, because it just added more to the story, because it showed you the parts that they couldn't show you because, they didn't do a cinematic, or to kind of fill in that gap with the loading time. And it got me excited, and got me hyped to what would come next, sort of thing. Or what was the continuation of the story? How did Stubbs get from one part to the next? And I love that. So that's the only downside I have, is the fact of I know why they're not there, because again, I'm playing on the Xbox Series X. The loading times are going to be completely non-existent, which they are literally. Like, you go from one to the next, not incredibly seamlessly, but it feels seamlessly. It feels like you're literally going from one stage to the next. And I feel like that's why you can complete it under 2 hours, because you can just go through very, very quickly without hardly any loading screens. And again, I almost did, but even though I was enjoying myself. But my first impressions is Aspire did a cracking job with this remaster, and they should be very proud of themselves. And just for that alone, like if you played the original, you should give this one a go, especially on sort of next gen sort of hardware. And even next gen, like, you've got this thing's out on Nintendo Switch. You can play this on the PlayStation 4, you can play it on the Xbox One, so you ain't even got to go really, really far in next gen. Just as long as you've got like a sort of newer sort of console, more than likely it is on there and you can play it, and it's absolutely fantastic. As for sort of like my thoughts on the game itself, again, of course, I loved it. I loved the story. I miss when games were like this, when they were tongue-in-cheek, when they were rude, when they were cheeky, when they were silly. Like, there were many moments in this where I was just laughing. Like, it's a 15. Like, the game is rated 15. The original game was rated 15. This game is rated the same. It's very cheeky. Like, there's one moment where I'm in the police station and I'm attacking and I only ever heard it once. But when I heard it, I knew what I heard, but I wasn't sure what I heard, but I knew I heard it, if that makes sense. So I'm in the police station and I'm getting full on sort of Resident Evil 2 vibes, but in reverse. You know, I'm taking down cops and one of them tries to dodge out the way of me, Leon Kennedy style. Anyway, he dodges. I manage to whack him and I press Y to eat his brains. But instead of eating his brains, I pull his arm off. And I swear to God, he said, this is what he said. And I only ever heard it once, but I know this is what he said. He went, "Oh no, not my wanking hand." And I burst out laughing. I just died. I thought that was hilarious. And again, I only ever heard it once, but it was comedy gold because it was just hilarious. It was out of nowhere. It was brilliant, right? And there were so many tongue-in-cheek moments. There was like, you go to this farm and it's called Knob Cheese Farm, which again, that joke went completely over my brain when I was younger. But reading it I just laughed. I thought it was hilarious. And there were so many moments like that where like there were jokes that went over my head when I was younger that I didn't notice, I didn't understand, and that now that I'm an adult and I'm playing the game, it's like, there it is. As what we did there. That's great. That's funny. And like, I miss that. I miss when games like this, where you play a random game out of nowhere, like you just go down to Blockbuster or Choices or Game or Game Station or any other sort of place, wherever you are in the world, listen to this, and you go to your game places, and you'd buy these random games that you'd see on the shelves, and you don't know if they're good or not. And then you'd find just comedy gold, and you'd find genius of it. And like, there's so many games around this era that were just so tongue in cheek or literally blate out just rude. But you know what? It was brilliant. And I loved it for that. I just loved the creativity. And even like the Stubbs as well. There's one part where you're playing as Stubbs, and you are in this aqua sort of dam where they keep all the water for the city. And basically, Stubbs walks in, and the guy thinks he's a scientist and basically says to him, like, "Oh, I can't be bothered at the moment because, you know, I have to make sure the water stays purified because all it takes is one zombie to pee in the water and that's it, we're all done for." He turns around, has a panic attack, realizes Stubbs there, Stubbs eats his brain, and then you go through the level, and then your basic task is to pee in the water supply so that it turns everybody who drinks it into zombies. And it's brilliant. It's really, really well done. And yeah, the whole story, as it rolls out, you learn more about who Stubbs is, about why Stubbs is important. And again, Stubbs has no line in the dialogue. He literally goes like proper zombie noises. He doesn't speak, but you know how he feels. You know what he's thinking. You know his motivations, and it's brilliant. And oh God, there is just like in the gameplay itself, like you would think that playing a game like this and hitting a few enemies and then pressing Y to eat their brains would get boring, but it never does. The first time I ate somebody's brains to the last brains that I ate was just brilliant. It was grand. It was like each time you did it, they'd make the same noises. "Oh no, not my brains! No, I got a wife and kids. No, don't do it! Ah!" You know what I mean? Or you pull their arms off. It's like, "Oh no, I can't shoot with that hand." You know, it's hilarious every single time. And like sometimes you can rip their arms off and then you can just beat them down with it. Or you get these abilities where you've got atomic flatulence, where you can just fart and it stuns the enemies. And like you can eat their brains. You can get like gut bombs, and you can pull out literally guts out of the big gash in your side and throw them, and you can explode in midair. Or you can take your head off and roll it like a bowling ball and take down multiple enemies. Or you can dislocate your hand, throw it out, and then possess people. And then you can use their guns. You can use rocket launchers, laser rifles, laser pistols, machine guns, standard sort of pistols. You can get headshots and things like that. And it's there. Basically, there is no game like this. There hasn't been a game like this at the time, and there hasn't been anything like it since. It is a completely unique experience. And you always see these people when they say, "We're going to revolutionize the zombie genre. We're going to revolutionize it. We're going to do something different. We're not going to do what you've always done." And every time they've ever said that, I've always thought to myself, but you don't. Because the only game the only zombie game in my personal opinion that has ever actually changed the game, has actually done something different, is Stubbs the Zombie. This game has never left my mind since I first played it, all the back in 2005. This is the game that stuck with me because, again, every time you hear the innovation, you hear somebody go, "We're going to do something different with the zombie genre," and then you play it, and you realize it's not really that different. You know what I mean? Like, you've gone 2 steps forward, but you haven't gone any further. You've gone, "Oh, yeah, we've added parkour," which parkour is cool, but go a bit further. Like Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, incredible. And then Back 4 Blood came out, and you're like, hold on, you went forwards, but you went backwards at the same time. How'd you do that? You know what I mean? And I feel like we need games like this. We need a game where you can play as a zombie and it not be serious, not to be anything that's meant to be taken seriously. Like, for God's sake, you're a zombie, for Christ's sake. Your whole sort of life is to eat brains. That is your goal. Eat brains, blah, 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 blah. You don't need anything dark, gritty, and serious and really sort of like, gripping or anything like that. Literally, like, look, you're a zombie. Your task is to eat brains. You get given these different sort of abilities and then go forth and then cause havoc and take over the city. That is what you do in this game. And I would love to play games like that where you can play, because you can do it as, there's so many vampire games that allow you to do that, but there's hardly really any zombie games that allow you to do it. Stubbs is the only zombie game that I know where it allows you to do that, and I never really understood as to why this game never got a sequel. Like, granted, yes, it's short and it is linear, but again, it's a 2005 game. Most of them were, to be honest, and it made me think, well, was I just really bad at it when I was younger because I kept dying, or maybe I've just improved and I've got a better gamer now and I can just play these games easily. I don't know, but I was surprised myself how far I managed to get and complete it literally within I actually almost completed it the day of doing the introduction, but I stopped myself playing because I had to do other things and other sort of reviews and research for other topics. But I would have finished it in one day. In fact, I've actually finished it in combination of 2 days, really. A little bit after the introduction and then the following day. So yeah, it's a wonderful game. It really, really is. And I would love a sequel. I would, generally. Like, if there was any way that Aspire are listening to this, like, I demand a sequel. I do, because I want to know where this character goes. I want to see where Stubbs goes. And, like, to be honest, even if they made a sequel, I don't know if I would actually want anything more than what I've already got. I don't want them to add things. I don't, like, unless it's add more zombie abilities and make it look prettier, but I wouldn't want them to go crazy and start adding different sort of features and next generation, blah, 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 blah. Look, I'd be happy them just go, look, we've taken the idea of Stubbs, but we've made a sequel, but we've just done what we've already done because it works. You know what I mean? The only thing I would really recommend that I'd love to see is maybe like an upgrade thing. Whereas the more brains that you eat, Stubbs gets stronger, and that you can then put that into upgrades of having more health or being able to be a lot more resilient, or that your flatulence is a lot more powerful, or unlock special abilities with like the flatulence where like you can do a big fart and then it makes like, I don't know, a nuclear sort of mushroom cloud and it covers a bigger area, that sort of thing. You know, little things like that, nothing major, just that gives you more of a reason than you already do because it's fun, but gives you more of a reason to eat brains so that you can get more sort of abilities, or your abilities are stronger. Or like when you can get a zombie horde, you can get a zombie horde together and then you can just command them, kind of like Overlord style with the minions, where you could just point and like, ooh, that way, and then all the zombies just charge and then you just watch them devour and eat people, and it's wonderful. You know what I mean? Like, stick with the comedy, stick with the jokes, and stick with the crude humor. Just give it a fresh lick of paint, and then do what we did and just carry on the story. Yes, I know at this point, I think it's been about 20 years or thereabouts now. So yeah, do something the same but newer. You know what I mean? So I'd happily have a sequel. As for sort of the art style, not really much to add really, other than it's a very futuristic 1950 sort of setting. Again, because I'm playing on the Xbox Series X, even though this game isn't Series X enhanced, it still looks sharper. It looks cleaner. It looks a lot more smoother, less jagged. The models look a lot better. There are certain things where you're like, "Ooh, okay, that model, like that texture, that model doesn't look so great." It still looks like it's stuck in 2005. But Stubbs looks great. He moves great. The animation's quite smooth whenever like you're eating brains or you're hitting somebody or you fall down or whatever. It's very smooth, which I really, really appreciated. Which again is that's what you want from a remaster. Really, you want the game to look as if you remember it looking and playing. You know what I mean? Just with a new bit of lick of paint on a newer console or whatever it is you're playing on. So yeah, my overall thoughts before we wrap it up and get on to is it worth the £5 entry fee? My overall thoughts is give it a go. If you played the original back in the day, you will absolutely love and adore this game. It is the exact same game, but just looks a little bit better and runs a lot quicker, and there's hardly any loading screens. If you haven't played it and you're looking for something different, this is a very quick one. If you're playing on the Xbox as well, you can easily get close to almost 1,000 gamer score just for playing the game. And if you play it on the higher difficulties, you'll get 90G. And I think if you complete the game in under 2 hours, I think you get about 20 to 30 gamer score. So if you're looking for a quick sort of completion achievement hunter, it's worth that as well. But really, if you're just looking for something different, if you're looking for something that nobody's doing at the moment, and you want to be able to play as a zombie, have fun, have a laugh, have a joke, really just being able just to, literally belly laugh at some of the really crude and silly humor from the 2000s, then this is the one for you. Really, it is brilliant. Nothing's ever been like it ever since. I want to see a sequel. It needs a sequel, or they at least need to do something with the Stubbs license. And I think Aspire, if they plan on doing something with it, I hope they do. Fingers crossed. But yeah, it is just a brilliant game, and I need more people to play it. I really do, because it's incredible. As for is it worth the £5 entry fee? Absolutely, 100%. It is worth it completely. This game's always on sale. It is a game that I've seen on sale quite a few times since buying it. So I would say just keep an eye out on Steam, keep an eye on the PlayStation Store, on the Xbox Store, whenever they do their big sales, and pick it up. If it's on sale, pick it up. But to be honest, not just because of the nostalgia, not because, again, I love it and I played the original and I still own the original game for the original Xbox, but I would happily pay full price for this. And I recommend that, if you wanted to give it a go, yes, it is only short, but it is worth the entry price. Actually, I'm on the Xbox at the moment. Let me have a look. Let me do a quick sort of thing. Stubbs. So on its own, the game to buy is, hold on when it loads, £16 and 74 pence. I would happily play that. I have no issue paying that. I can't remember how much I paid, but I'd happily spend full price, me personally, just for the nostalgia, just for the experience, and because it's different. That's the biggest takeaway from this review, is the fact of, if you're looking for something different, here it is. Nothing's done this before. Nothing has done it since, and I don't think anything ever will do it like this. And that is why you should get it, because it is different. It is wonderful. It is the best experience of playing a zombie you will ever get. And it's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. I loved it. I really, really do. It needs a sequel. So yeah, it's worth the £5 entry fee. It's worth more, to be honest, especially for somebody like me who's really, really nerdy and nostalgic for stuff like this. And it'd be definitely worth it if you're a new fan, if I managed to interest you in this game. Yeah, so that is all I have to say on Stubbs the Zombie. It's been a real sort of nostalgia experience just playing through this game, just meeting all the characters again and just reliving those memories and sort of remembering different sort of boss fights and just having like flashbacks, proper Vietnam flashbacks to when I was younger, playing those levels and just dying repeatedly and just really sucking at this game, but also still carrying on and being like, oh, I can't do it. So I'd restart the game and I'd go from the start, just because I couldn't do it. But you know what? It was one of those where, I still had a lot of fun. It was still a game I kept coming back to because I could eat brains and I could be a zombie, and it was wonderful, you know. So yeah, I've got nothing but positive things to say about this game. It was a real nostalgia sort of trip for me to go down memory lane to play this game again, and I'm glad now I have a podcast to be able to have a reason to not only play the game but to talk about it as well. So please indulge me, check the game out, give it a go. Also listen to my other game reviews. My game reviews I did for the games I played in January, which I released at the end of January. Check that out. My other £5 bargain or bin game series that I've looked at in the past, definitely please do check it out. As for what is coming next, so what I've decided to do for this one is that kind of going down that nostalgic rabbit hole. I have decided to go with a game that when it came out in what's the year this game came out now? When this game came out in 2021, so same year as the remake of this game, Stubbs the Zombie. This game came out, and the biggest criticism that people had about it is the fact of it's all right, but it is basically an Xbox 360 hack and slash game, which to everybody else sounded like a negative, but to me sounded like a big positive because, again, I still play the Xbox 360. I love my 360. I had very fond memories on there. So anything that kind of reminds me of those days, I'm completely here for. So what that game is, so it is Werewolf the Apocalypse Earth Blood. I'm really excited to give this a go, and it's going to be interesting to see if it's worth the £5 entry fee or not. Is it a game where the criticism is warranted, or maybe people would just be negative for negative sake? I don't know, but we'll find out in the next episode. But for now, thank you for listening to my review of Stubbs the Zombie, Rebel Without a Pulse. I've absolutely thoroughly enjoyed myself. I hope you have too. And I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye-bye.